Hello everyone, my name is Mark Newman. Today I'm going to take you through a topic that I get a lot of questions about, and that is, what is the difference between an employee and a contractor? I get asked this question a lot from people who are firstly looking at taking on someone to do some work for them, whether they should be engaged as an employee or a contractor, and secondly from people who are looking to work for someone, whether they can work as a contractor or whether they work as an employee. So what's the difference? Very simply, a contractor is someone who goes in to do work, provides an invoice for the work they've done and gets paid upon the invoice. They receive no other payments. Versus an employee, they're covered under awards, they're entitled to superannuation, leave, PAYG and to return to work or work cover. So there's quite a difference in the way that they get paid, but it's very important that we get it right. If we get it wrong, for example, engage someone as a contractor and don't pay them superannuation or leave entitlements, that is later on reviewed by one of the organisations, for example Fair Work or the ATO. They can actually deem that rather than being a contractor they should have been an employee, and therefore they're entitled to these, and therefore the employer may have to actually pay them up, even though they actually would have paid them a higher rate as a contractor versus an employee. So we need to make sure we get this right. So how do we do this? Well, the ATO has given us 6 key factors that we can look at in making this decision. And again, I encourage everyone to please do your research, because we want to make sure that we get it right, as the financial penalties can be significant. So what are these key areas? The first one is ability to delegate. That is, if you go to someone and say, I need you to do this work, do they actually have to do it themselves, or can they actually get someone else or even an outside organisation to do it for them? If they have to do it themselves or within the organisation staff, that would indicate they're an employee. Whereas if they can go to another organisation and get someone else to do it for them, that would indicate that they're a contractor. The next one is the basis of the payment. Now what I'm referring to here is how they're actually paid. So for example, if they're getting an hourly or a day rate, that would indicate they're an employee, versus if they're given a certain amount for completion or certain stages along the job, that would indicate they're a contractor. Because if they're a contractor and they do the job quickly, they'll get paid the same amount, versus if they take twice as long or they're very slow, they'll still receive the same amount. So the contractor's then taking the risk. Next one is the tools that they're providing. So if it's just simple tools, for example, drills, hammers, etc., that would still indicate they're an employee because they don't have significant value. If they're providing tools, for example, like an excavator, that would indicate that they're a contractor because those have significant values and it's part of the work that's being completed. Then we have a look at the risk that is being undertaken with the work. So who's bearing the risk? So for example, if an employee goes on the job and stuffs up, they'll actually get paid additional hours to fix up that. Versus a contractor, they won't receive any additional pay because they'll have to rectify the work they're doing. The next one is the control. So who's exercising the control as when and where the work is done? So for example, if an employee will be told that they need to turn up to the job at 9 o'clock and that will be there for the week, whereas the contractor will be told that they need to complete the job typically within a certain time frame, and they can choose when they turn up, whether that's 9, 12, as long as it's completed within the time frame that's specified for them. And the last one is independence. And what that means is, do they actually have to do the work? So for example, if you say, I need a house painted in this area, an employee will obviously that's part of their job to do. Whereas the contractor can say, actually, no, I don't want to do that job, or I have other work on, and therefore you're going to have to find someone else. So they have the right to refuse and accept work. So that's a basic summary of the ATO's, the way the ATO looks at the difference between employees and contractors. Again, it's important that we get this right because there can be significant penalties if we get it wrong, particularly for the employer, because if you engage someone as a contractor, don't pay super and leave, you could be entitled to pay that out if it's ever reviewed. And I have sat through quite a few reviews with the ATO Fair Work where they've actually looked at the contractor and employee relationship. And where people tend to get stuck with this is initially they'll bring someone on as a contractor, which is correct because it's a short-term project, but that project gets extended or additional work added to it, which indicates that it may actually be an employee relationship. So firstly, review it at the start, but secondly, review all your contractor relationships, especially after 3 months. If it's looking like it's long-term, it's probably going to be an employee, and you need to look at changing that relationship. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out and contact me. Thank you for listening. Mark Newman.